Welcome to For Book Lovers Only Live Radio, where we discuss amazing books written by talented authors. For Book Lovers Only Live Radio is a proud member of the Village Connector Media Network. If you love books, we have a home for you. Now time for your host and chief book lover, Rob Brown.
Hello and welcome to For Book Lovers Only Live Radio, where if you love books, we have a home for you. My name is Rob Brown, your internet radio host and chief book lover. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode. Today's guest author and creative coach, K Wendt, has published 7 wonderful stories for children aged 7 and younger, each with its own message on self-esteem, courage, and kindness. She expresses her ideas through creative wordplay and loves the challenge of a new story idea, no matter the genre. Kay also speaks to adult groups on finding purpose in life, the joys and heartaches of being a writer, and the struggle to find balance as a woman in today's world. Her latest book, Burned on Sunday, a Colorado Reckoning Western, has protagonist Lucy devising a plan to expose the townspeople of Rock Springs of their own sin, turmoil, and hypocrisy after the public humiliation of her best friend. However, the unexpected maternal love of a merchant's wife and the kindness of a stranger may have her changing her mind. Kay, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, I learned recently that you write in multiple genres. That sounds pretty challenging. Why do you write in more than one genre?
I believe in writing what you feel led to write. I started my journey just thinking I was going to be a novelist and focused on that, but I kept having this idea pop into my head for a children's story, and I just decided to write it out, and it ended up being my first book actually published because the novel wasn't quite ready. And it taught me to just write out whatever's in my head and see what happens with it. So I rather enjoy the hopping around of genres.
Do you feel that when you hop around to different genres that it kind of helps the creative process, as opposed to if you were just let's say writing all Westerns or writing all romance novels, the way you kind of pop from genre, does it help the creative process?
For me, yes. I don't have a problem sitting down and working on Lucy's story and then turning around and working on a children's story. I'm able to keep them all very separate within my mind and on paper and stuff. And working on one will actually help me with the scene of another. So I do find it to be very helpful.
Now, is there a particular genre that you would consider your favorite that you love to write in?
Well, my first love has always been poetry because I also write poetry as well. That's actually where I started back in high school, was with poetry and lyrics. And I've actually come full circle because I'm writing lyrics again with a musician friend of mine. So poetry would be my first love.
Okay. Now, writing, whenever I'm interviewing authors, writing seems to mean different things to different people. What does writing mean to you?
Well, I hope you can understand my answer because I do kind of get a weird face when I've been asked this question, but writing is who I am. I breathe when I write. Through writing, I've discovered myself.
No, that makes total sense. I think when you find your passion, it sounds like to me, if I'm mistaken, please correct me. It sounds like writing is pretty much what you were born to do. It's almost even more than a passion. It's in your DNA. Is that correct?
That would be a good way to say that, because I am happiest when I write. I'm happiest when I'm among other artists of any genre, painter, musician, author, what have you. That's my world. That's where I feel the best.
Now, were you always like that? Let's say even in elementary, junior high, and high school, or was that something that you discovered kind of later on in your life? Or
I guess the way to answer that would be to say writing was kind of my escape. I was actually a very shy child, especially when I entered the awkward high school years. And so I would write out my thoughts and my feelings because it was a lot easier for me to write them out than it was to say them. And so writing and music and movies kind of were my escape and my ability to breathe and function.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to dive in to your novel, Burned on Sunday. I like westerns, and I was really excited to learn more about Burned on Sunday. Tell us about Lucy.
Lucy is a small town girl who found her way to Rock Springs via wagon trail and broken wagon wheel. And, she took the only job available to her in town, which happened to be in the saloon. But she was a hurdy-gurdy girl. If you don't know what that term means, that's the official term for the girls that would dance with the men in the saloon.
Mm-hmm.
She could have been a soiled dove, but I don't want to reveal too much because I do let you know in the book why that didn't happen.
Right.
But she did it because it was the job she could get. And it wasn't necessarily her ideal thing to do. I mean, she wanted to be the town teacher, but that job was already taken. And she found a friend there named Melissa, and they became best buds. And Melissa found her way out of the saloon through marriage, and it wasn't a happy marriage. And Lucy was very protective of her. And so Lucy's a very dedicated best friend. That would be a simplified way to define her. I don't know how much to tell you without rambling into a lot of details of the story. But she just, she was very strong-willed, very stubborn, and very aware of the town hypocrisy.
Right.
She knew who walked into the saloon and who went up the stairs and who didn't. So.
Well, I want to give the readers, our viewers and listeners, and eventually they'll be readers because they're going to buy your book, but I want to give them a taste of your writing. You write, once Lucy felt good about her plan, she burned the paper over the candle on her desk. Sins of others would be exposed, and she didn't want anyone knowing she was the one behind what was going to happen. So it appears to me that Lucy is sort of finding herself in her inner strength here to do the right thing and help others. Is that a theme that you wanted to convey to the readers?
Yes. The Burned on Sunday, the trilogy, it actually is book one of a trilogy, is focused on women empowerment and the empowerment within yourself. And she very much becomes empowered in her desire to take care of her friend and basically clean up her friend's reputation due to the town's view of her. But as for burning her plans or whatnot, she didn't want anybody. She still had that fear. We all have an inner fear, and she was strong, but yet not strong enough at that point to stand up and say, yeah, it was me. I did it,
Now, when you were writing this book, just out of curiosity, did you, I imagine this is the first Western that you've written, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Did you do like background research about that time period?
I actually have a wonderful researcher. It's my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that even though it's not historical fiction, it's just a Western, I knew that I still had to have some information correct for the time period. So my sister, yes, she did research things. I did make sure the mercantile had canned food. I did research how people died mysteriously, symptoms of this versus that, because I didn't want to completely expose the death of a particular character. The type of oil, if any, were shotguns yet invented, all of that was researched.
And I can imagine that your readers and those who are fans of the Western genre, they really appreciate that. They appreciate the fact that you and your team, your sister, you all did the research to make sure it was as historically accurate as possible. Now, your sister, does she normally do research for different things, or did you just like say, "Hey, sis, I need some help on my book. I need you to, do some research and just come back to me"? Like, how did that work out?
Well, she's always been very supportive of my dream to be an author and to write and whatnot. And she's always wanted to help me however she can help me. And we discovered that she has this wonderful knack for research. And I've actually told people, you know, my own clients and other authors, you need research done. I can connect you with a great researcher. You know, I'm trying to convince her that she needs to make her own business cards.
Absolutely. Sounds like she's phenomenal at it.
Yes, I believe that she is. She actually, I gave her a research assignment this morning, as a matter of fact. So
well, she's a victim of her own success.
Pretty much.
Well, I want to talk about some of the other characters in the book. Another part of the book that I liked was how Matthew Clarkson, the saloon owner, stood up to, was it Sam and Mark, two of the town hypocrites?
Yes.
You write, Matthew slammed the glasses down, popped the top off the bottle, and poured the whiskey. Then he looked at Sam. You're in my establishment. That means I decide who serves you, and no girl that works for me is going to come anywhere near you. That goes for you too, Mark. You think there aren't any of us in town who don't know how you treat your wife? So it seems there that there's somewhat of a paradox in Matthew's personality. He owns a saloon. We all know what goes on in a saloon. But at the same time, he has a sense of morality and, you know, realizing that men need to treat their wives good and treat them with respect. Tell me a little bit about that paradox in that character.
So yes, there definitely is a paradox within Matthew, because, you know, at the beginning of the book, he has them pray before every meal, you know. So you're talking about a man who owns a saloon with a strong faith in God, but he won't allow his girls to be mistreated. He won't allow them to be touched in any way that is unacceptable. You know, and business is business. He separates business from, I guess, morals and ethics, because, you know, he had to earn a living, and that was a good way to do it at that time. But the thing with Sam specifically has to do with something that Sam did, and that's what exposes Matthew's overprotectiveness of his girls. You know, because they're like, the girls are like his and Miss Betty's daughters.
Right.
So.
And what type of feedback have you been getting from fans, particularly fans in the Western genre?
I have gotten a lot of great feedback. I have a lot of people, you know, can't wait to see what happens in book 2 and things of that nature. You know, people who have never read Westerns before are actually very intrigued by it. And again, can't wait for the second book to come out. I've gotten a lot of great comments about the empowerment of Lucy's character and another characters you find toward the end of the book. But you know, I have learned that I need to focus on the empowerment. There was one person who was mistaken in the storyline, and that's fine. That's fine.
So is that going to be a theme so you said this is going to be a series of novels. Is that going to be a theme in the novels of the empowerment of women, particularly during this time period?
Yes. It's something that has become prevalent in my own personal life, and you know, there's a bit of the author in every book, and I think in this particular storyline, that's what part of me is coming out in it, is my own particular empowerment in my own life, and just the importance of it, not to be strong and domineering and things of that nature, but to be strong and confident in yourself and your ability and what you were put on this earth to do. So yes, definitely. You know, book 2 is Melissa's story, and you know, for those who have already read book 1, they know how it ends, and so she definitely has some empowering growth going on.
Okay, so is this going to be a series where kind of each woman in the town kind of comes to their own reality of empowerment?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. You know, that's really profound. I really like that. I like the fact that, you know, the empowerment of women, you're putting that as a common theme in a Western, in a series of Westerns. That's probably not common in most Westerns. I mean, I think most people, you know, when they think of Westerns, they think of, you know, cowboys and, you know, shootouts and, you know, meeting somebody in town square at noon. You're taking it from, you know, a very different angle. I really like that. I think that's really creative.
Right. Well, you know, the story spoke to me, and that's something else I believe in. You know, if you will step back and let the story tell itself,
Mm-hmm.
then you have a great project in your hands. And that's exactly what I did with Burned on Sunday.
Well, that's a great segue into my next question. You talked about letting the story tell itself. I know a lot of our listeners and viewers are probably like, huh, I wonder how someone does that. Now, in addition to being an accomplished author, you also have a coaching business, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, tell us more about that.
So I decided last year, because by the end of 2018, I was being approached multiple times to by other authors or aspiring authors about their dreams and how they wish they could do this or that or the other. And I kept hearing, you know, blocks. And I had just finished The Artist Way. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that is a great book for any creative person. It's definitely therapy, but I had just finished being a part of a group that was going through that and had experienced my own growth and gotten past a block of my own. And so I decided to turn around and help these people, because I figured out if you can break down that wall of the block and let your creativity flow, there's a lot of positivity in that. There's a lot of happiness in that. And there's a lot of really defining and discovering who you really are when you break down those blocks. So I have quite a few clients now, and I just meet with them as they need me, because blocks are going to happen more than once.
Mm-hmm.
And I just take the time to listen, and I can usually pinpoint pretty quick, you know, what's stopping them. And then I present them with challenges to see it for themselves, and then walk with them on how are we gonna tear this one down? How are we gonna get past this one?
Now, with regards to your clientele, are these more authors that have already written books, or are these more first-time authors?
The majority of them are first-time authors. I do have a couple of already successful authors that I will be meeting with in the near future, sorry. Because like I said, you know, you can be 20 years in the game and have a block. Or you could be wanting to write that first word on the first page ever and have a block. It's going to continue throughout your journey.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, that's kind of like a common theme, that at some point in an author's career, in a writer's career, they're going to get that block. And, you know, I've heard a variety of different ways of how people approach that. How long have you been in business with your coaching business?
Not quite a year yet. Like I said, I this has been a year of empowerment for me. I walked away from full-time work to create my own business and whatnot, fabulous. Just at the very beginning of this year. So.
And what advice would you give authors who want to write in multiple genres too? Because once again, I imagine, although you had mentioned earlier, it does jog the creativity process, it seems like it's pretty challenging. What would you give advice to them?
Well, I actually have a client that I'll use as an example. This particular client has an amazing ability with imagery. She can write a scene where you not only visualize it, but you can feel the scene and you can hear the sounds within it. She writes that well. I am helping her through what I thought was going to be one book project of basically a memoir of essays about a personal thing in her life. And she started talking about wanting to write a couple of different type of books. And being who I am and what I do, I told her, I said, well, when you have those ideas, write them down. Don't ever not write something down, because you never know where it'll go. And so I was just write it down. There's nothing wrong with turning from your primary project to a secondary project to write an idea down. And in so doing that, we've gone from one book to now we have 4 books in progress.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So it's a matter of paying attention to the voice. And if the voice is saying, hey, I know you're over here, but I just had this thought about this. Could you at least write it down for me, and we'll see where it goes later? You know,
right.
It's important to pay attention to that.
Now, with regards to the Western series that you're writing with Lucy and Melissa and developing that out, what's the other genre that you're going to be focusing on?
Okay, well, my first novel is actually a Christian fiction romance novel. It's been out since 2016. It is called Emma's Journey. I've had such great response and reader requests for that story to continue that actually is going to become an 8-book series.
Oh, very nice.
Yes. The series title will be Autumnville, and I will spotlight a different character in each one. And I'm actually, that's one of my many projects in process, you know, because I have 8 books to write. And I'm always writing children's books, always have a children's book going at some sort. As I said earlier, I'm now writing lyrics with a great musician friend of mine. And then I decided to take a giant leap and write a sexy romantic comedy. I'm in the midst of that. I have an agent waiting for me to finish it by her request. She didn't want the first 50 pages. She wanted the whole document. So, because I'm an indie author right now, and I have a desire to see what the traditional world can offer me if they take me.
Okay, so you said this is a romantic comedy. Is this a romantic, is this a script or is this another book?
This is another book. It's a sexy romantic comedy, which means it's also written under another pen name, because I do have readers who read K Wendt who won't read this book.
Wow. Okay, so let me get this straight. So you have the Western series, you have the other series that's going to be 8 books, and then you have the sexy romantic book. Like, when do you have time to sleep?
You know, I've started telling people, when I die, just give my brain to science. I can't explain it to you, but this is how I work, and I find it very intriguing and invigorating. As a matter of fact, sitting here waiting to do the interview, I have gigantic yellow legal pad paper all over my office with different stories in progress, and I'm sitting here reading a couple before the interview, and I'm like, oh yeah, and that's the next step on that one, and then I jump to another one. That's just how I work. I can't explain it.
Well, it seems to work. Apparently it works and works very well. How did you determine that the one series of books that's going to be 8 books in the series, how do you determine that from this point? Like, how do you say, okay, this series is going to be 8 books, this series is going to be 4 books? Like, how do you determine the number?
So on the Autumnville series, I actually had the wonderful pleasure of meeting a best-selling author who writes the type of series that I was trying to put out for it. And she mentored me for about 6 months in the process of setting up the books. I told her my storyline, I told her my characters and whatnot. And it was actually with her help that I came up with a total of 8 books. But it's going to be a little different because the men's stories are going to be novelettes. Right. That's like 17 words or less, something like that. And then the girl stories are going to be novels. Just to give you a sense of of the men before they enter into the novel, and then give you the full story in the novel. So that's how that one was created. And that one was already in progress when I worked Burned on Sunday. I never write a book with the intention of it being a series. With Burned on Sunday, I hired a distribution company who also does marketing research and whatnot. And they did that on Burned on Sunday. And it was through their advice that they're like, this needs to be a series, not a standalone, because it's a Western, and Westerns are typically series, not standalones. And because I was already doing 8 books in one series, I'm the one who said, okay, it's going to be a trilogy, because
Right.
surely 3 books is enough. So,
Oh, understood. That's very interesting. So for Westerns, they should be in a series. Well, we are excited about Burned on Sunday here. We love the theme of empowerment for women. Obviously, with all the books and everything that you have going on, you are the living embodiment of empowerment for women, and we are honored to have you on the show. And I know our viewers and our listeners are going to want to get your information as to how they can follow you on social media and stay in contact with you. Your website is kwendt.com. At Twitter, they can find you, Kwendt, the number 1. Facebook, author.kwent. Instagram, author_K_Wendt. And email, authorkwendt@gmail.com. Kay, thank you so much for stopping by our show. We're really excited about Burned on Sunday, and we're looking forward to seeing the next book in the Burned on Sunday series and just learning more about all the Autumnville series. That sounds great. So definitely we want to invite you to come back to our show when your next book comes out.
thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. The book is Burned on Sunday, a Colorado Reckoning Western, available for purchase on ForBookLoversOnly.com. Make sure you pick up a copy. This is a really entertaining, great Western series. And for all of our viewers and listeners who are not yet members of our book club, we want to invite you to join. It's totally free. We'll be giving out free coffee mugs, tote bags, baseball caps for upcoming contest winners, but only if you're a member. So we want to make sure that you join today. Now, you can join in one of 2 ways. Either go to www.forbookloversonly.com and you can fill in your information there, or you can just text the word book to 301-321-8887, and then you'll receive a message with a link. Click on the link, then fill in the form, and then click sign me up, and you're automatically a member. We'll give you a free gift just for joining, and we look forward to you joining our family of book lovers. And also be sure to follow us on social media. Facebook for Book Lovers Only, Twitter at FBLONLY, and Instagram at For Book Lovers Only 15. We're out of time, but thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Rob Brown, your internet radio host and chief book lover, and this is For Book Lovers Only Live Radio, where if you love books, we have a home for you. Thank you. See you next time.